Well, thank you all so much for coming. We're really excited to talk to you all about our supply chain agent. So supply chain planning at its core is about answering four fundamental questions: what to buy, what to make, how to position it, and how to deliver it to customers. Now, every organization that is producing or moving physical goods is doing this today, whether you're a manufacturer, CPG, or pharmaceutical or otherwise. It's not about whether you plan, it's about how quickly and effectively you can make all these decisions. Now, what makes this particularly challenging is that all of these decisions are highly interconnected. So a change in demand, a supplier delay, or a capacity constraint ripples across the network and essentially affects all of these decisions, from purchasing to production, distribution, inventory, and sales. At the same time, leaders are constantly trying to balance three competing priorities: cost, service levels, and risk. And improving one often puts pressure on the others. So it's really about orchestrating all of these trade-offs across the network and doing it fast enough to keep up with constant change. And that's where things get even harder. Supply chains today are increasingly volatile and complex. There's more products, more channels, higher customer expectations. I mean, I can order bath bombs on Amazon and they will be at my front door in less than 4 hours. And yet, most planning processes have not evolved to handle that complexity at scale. Data is fragmented, processes are manual, and most teams operate in silos. And the result is slower, more reactive decision-making without a full understanding of the downstream impacts. And so there's this gap between the complexity of today's supply chains and the ability to effectively plan them. Now, we've been working with many different organizations around, well, how do we improve those supply chain decisions? And it really comes down to three things. First, organizations need more connected, scalable supply chain plans. They need a unified view of the supply chain with analytics embedded into their workflows so they can move from reactive to proactive data-driven decisions. Second, agility is critical. Planners need to be able to test multiple scenarios. What if demand spikes? What if a supplier runs short? What if a plant shuts down because of a fire or a flood? And then be able to understand the operational and financial impacts of these scenarios in order to be able to respond with speed and confidence. And third, ease of use really matters. Most planners and operations experts are not data scientists. They need to have intuitive tools that give them clear insights and fit into how they currently work. They don't need to be able to interact with complex models. And that's exactly where the supply chain agent fits in. It's a natural language interface that connects to your supply chain data and complements your existing demand and supply planning processes and solutions. It's a multi-agent system with a forecasting agent and a supply chain optimization agent. The forecasting agent is powered by SAS forecasting models, which automatically generate accurate, explainable forecasts at scale. And the SAS supply chain optimization agent is powered by, you guessed it, the SAS supply chain optimization model. And that provides connected, optimized plans for all of those decisions across the supply chain, from purchasing to production, distribution, inventory, and sales. And it all comes together with an orchestration agent that decides how to route your questions to each of these agents. So the supply chain agent gives you the ability to understand what's changing in your plans, run multiple scenarios, and make decisions much faster. They're clearer and more collaborative. So let's see the supply chain agent in action. For today's demonstration, Brett and I work for a consumer packaged goods manufacturer. We are sitting in a supply planning review meeting, which is part of a monthly S&OP cycle. I'm a supply chain leader, Brett is our supply planner, and we're really excited to use our supply chain agent to answer questions and run a few different scenarios. So Brett, let's jump right in. Tell us what we're looking at here, and let's go ahead and get an understanding of what our demand forecast looks like over the next 12 weeks.
Definitely. So we can go ahead and ask that question around what our forecast looks like, and we are going to route to our forecasting agent, which already knows things that we're interested in, like financial results, like an overview of the forecast, and a look at the forecast outliers, as well as the forecast accuracy. This agent, in parallel, is going to analyze each of these three core components for us by looking at the data that powers the forecast model that Jessica just talked about. And then it's going to summarize these results for us in a nice, long textual summary that you all see here. And now that we have these results, Jessica, we see that we have about 145,000 units, which is about a 5% growth compared to the same time period last year. The agent also provides us with a look at how the forecast is performing and places where we might need to investigate further, like outliers. And it also returns some artifacts and some visualizations for us. So we can see here a nice visual of how this forecast looks, and we can see where that 5% growth as compared to the same time last year actually is. So Jessica, here are the results. What would you like to look at next?
This looks good. I'm comfortable with the 5% projected year-over-year growth. Sounds like the forecast is trending in the right direction. But as you know, the forecast is just one piece of the puzzle. Now we need to take a look at how that translates to production planning, how to store and move inventory around to meet that demand. So let's take a look at our supply plan over the next 12 weeks. I'd like to understand the financials and the service levels associated with it as well.
Perfect. We've already got it running for you, and we've routed to the supply chain optimization agent, which already knows that we're interested in looking at financials, customer service levels, and manufacturing plant production levels as well. Again, this agent is going to, in parallel, analyze these three different aspects of our network for us, come back to us with these results in a nice textual format, and it's going to come back to us with artifacts. So Jessica, here it looks like we have about revenue between 46 to 56,000 per week. We have about a total cost of 69 to 89,000 per week, and we have a huge outlier in week 9 where revenue jumps to about 941,000. We're also shown information like customer service levels, manufacturing plant production levels, but I know you're interested in looking at financials, so let's go ahead and pull that up. So we can see here a nice look at our revenue, profits, overall costs, and we can see that we do have a big outlier in week 9, so that might be something we need to investigate further. I know you're also interested in looking at our overall customer service levels to see how we're meeting our customers. So you can see here that our customer service, our overall service level is pretty consistent, weeks 1 through 6, but then we have a dip in weeks 7 through 8, which might mean that we need to do some further investigation. So now that we have these results, what's next?
Okay, well, this is great. This is really helpful to understand the full picture. I'm seeing some of the service level projections though, and I'm pretty concerned that we're in the 80s for the first 6 weeks. What my biggest priority though is our top customer, which is Walmart. So can we take a look at what Walmart's service levels are over the next 12 weeks and see how we're trending there?
Definitely. So we can go ahead and ask the supply chain optimization agent to go one layer deeper, and it's going to look at both the input and output tables from that supply chain optimization model, filter the data to only look for our customer Walmart, and then it's going to aggregate those results for us in a nice textual summary that you all are used to seeing at this point. And it's also going to provide us with an artifact as well that we could potentially download and use and analyze further in a different SaaS, SaaS Viya, for example. So Jessica here, the supply chain agent, is working, and it looks like we've got our results. And it looks like for Walmart, we're averaging about a 88.3% service level. So might need some work there. It looks like our trends for weeks 1 through 9 are about in the mid-80s. And then for weeks 10 through 12, we're actually at 100%. So we're meeting things in the last 3 weeks of this forecast, but maybe not the first few. And you can see that this is supported here by the data. So Jessica, I know this probably isn't what we're looking for. What do you think?
All right, this is definitely concerning. If we're in the 80s on service level for Walmart, we're gonna hit up against a lot of on-time in full fines, and we don't wanna have to manage that. So I know it's all about orchestrating these trade-offs, so I'm comfortable if some of our other customers, maybe we take a hit on service level, but we really need to prioritize Walmart orders. Can we run a scenario where we increase the service level for Walmart? I want to see if we can get as close to 95% service level as we can. Let's see the impact across the supply chain, both from a financial perspective as well as the operational impacts.
Definitely. So we can go ahead and run this request, and the supply chain optimization agent has predetermined code that it knows to execute, which will go and look at the input data for the optimization model. It's going to identify this customer Walmart, it's going to set our target service level to be 95%, and then it's going to rerun the optimization model for us. And when it reruns this optimization model, what's happening here is the model is making decisions on how can we get Walmart's service level to be as close to 95% as possible. And once it regenerates all of its output data, then it's going to come back to us with this nice summarized response. And then what we can do is ask it to run a comparison for us. So we're interested in looking at the financial overview as well as customer service levels. And what's happening here is we're no longer just looking at this scenario where we've increased Walmart's service level, but we're running a comparison against what our baseline scenario was, so that way we can understand how our network changes as compared to what is normal in our case. So what the agent's doing is it's running an analysis on each of these two sets of data, generating tables for us, and then running a final comparison on the differences between those tables, and then summarizing those results for us in a natural language way, so that way we can easily understand where these differences are. Looks like we have our result, Jessica, and revenue is expected to be slightly lower by about 1.9K in this scenario, and our profits are about 2K lower as well. So even though we can set Walmart's service level to be closer to 95, we can expect a slight dip in our profits. So that might be something to keep in mind if we want to do this.
Okay, thank you for running that. I mean, that makes sense if we're going to kind of have to ramp up the inventory to cover those orders, not necessarily going to see the revenues come in immediately, but I'm comfortable with that. Let's move forward with that scenario and send it over to our operations team. I've got another scenario for you. Our commercial team has come to us, and as we start to look out into the summer, they want to run a new promotional initiative with some of our top brands. Now, this is typical of the commercial team. They're going to make some decisions, and they don't necessarily understand or even consider the impact across the supply chain. Now, they're projecting an increase in demand by about 10% for the first 3 weeks in May. So I'd like to run a scenario around this promotional initiative, see if it's even feasible or whether it'll be profitable to move forward with that initiative.
And I assume you also want to try to keep Walmart's service level increased by to 95% as well? Perfect. We can go ahead and run that. So now what the agent is going to do is it recognizes that we need to make two modifications to the input data for the optimization model. The first modification is we upgrade or increase the demand for our products between those 3 weeks. And we also are trying to set the service level for Walmart to be 95% or as close to 95% as possible. What it's doing is it has the code, it's going to edit the input data, rerun the optimization model, and regenerate these results again like we all just saw. It's going to come back to us with a look at revenue, cost, profit at a high level, but what we are interested in is understanding how this new scenario compares to the baseline. So we can again run a comparison of asking about the financials and asking about the customer service levels, and the agent is going to again look at both sets of scenarios, generate an analysis on both sets of data, come back together and analyze both sets of data and come back to us and share the differences that it finds in a natural language way, and also providing us with artifacts that we can analyze further on. And I'm going to take this time to say that all of the analytics are controlled by SAS models, the SAS optimization model and the SAS forecasting model. So each agent is running trusted SAS programs to generate these results. The agents are just the translation layer to help us understand the data a bit better. So Jessica, looks like we have these results. And our revenue, if we scroll up a little bit, looks like it's actually going to drop a little bit. So about 1.8 thousand in revenue is dropping, and about our profit actually looks to be dropping by about 2.6 thousand. So even though our commercial team wants to run this promotion to maybe get some product out or things like that, it might not actually be as good of a performer as we are expecting. So that might be something that you need to go and let them know about just so they're aware.
Thank you for running that. It's incredibly valuable to be able to do those layered scenarios with service level and promotions. To your point, it looks like the promotional initiative is not going to be profitable. That makes sense because we don't have enough time to ramp up production in order to meet those needs from a demand standpoint within just a few weeks. So let's send this over to our commercial teams. Regardless, it's really valuable to have that proactive insight. They may be able to rework some of the details of the promotional initiatives with our suppliers. This is something that used to take us weeks, and now to very quickly be able to run multiple scenarios just at the tips of our fingers, just immediately, is something we couldn't have imagined before, so thank you. To summarize, our supply chain agent cuts through complexity. The goal is to break down silos between all the different planning teams. We are democratizing the analytics and the insights across different business users, and that accelerates decision making. And we are doing it in a way that fits seamlessly into existing workflows and complements current technology investments. So we hope you enjoyed our session. If you'd like to get a hands-on experience of the supply chain agent, you can in the Try Zone, which is right around the corner. Or if you'd like more information, you can click on the QR code in the upper right-hand corner and fill out our supply chain agent interest form. So, thank you.
Thank you.